Record now. Okay, it's recording.
Hi, Beck.
Hi, Joni.
We're here to make another episode. This could be a podcast.
Yes, I'm sitting in your lounge room.
Yeah, and the sun has
Kind
sort of come out.
This is just like, I'm so glad my house is still standing.
The wind has been outrageous.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you see it blew one of my little trees over in the pot?
Oh, that's
It
sad.
uprooted the little roots in the pot and everything.
Oh.
But it's been crazy weather, really wet for late September.
I've had my, because I've got that massive palm tree out the front.
Yeah.
And the fronds keep falling down. And I'm sure, do you know what? I really need someone to nominate me for one of those, like, house and garden makeover shows.
Oh,
like, I can supply.
That would be brilliant.
I know. Like,
Jamie Jury in your front yard with his shirt off digging up your palm fronds.
I can supply a sob story.
Yeah.
Like, I can supply, like a triumph over adversity story if they want.
Okay.
Like, I can supply, like, I do good things for the community. Like, all of the traditional dominant narratives that go in those shows, I've got one.
Which one? Do you have a preference? Which show you want? Because I'll make this happen.
Maybe, like, I don't know, nothing too, like, crazy.
What does
Just
that
like
mean?
Better Homes and Gardens style, you know? Like,
Is that still happening, Better Homes and Gardens?
I think so.
There's the living room now that's on Channel 10.
Yeah.
Which on a couple of really sad occasions I found myself watching on a Friday night. But
I don't think that's necessarily a sad occasion.
okay. I might
Do you know all I wanted to do this Friday night? I'm going to edit this bit out.
Yeah.
Some jazz music.
Yeah.
So this Friday night, now that we've beeped that bit out, this Friday night I was reading a book, actually. This book here. So I got really into it. It's called All Roads Lead to Austin because I picked up a couple of massive boxes of books the other day to sell in my bookshop. Or, you know, cafe/bookshop. So this
Is this interesting news that you want to share with our 12 listeners?
Our 12 listeners. I did invest in a coffee shop /bookstore /eco gift store last week or the week before on the rebound. So it's exciting and I'm sure there will be updates about that.
Good. So what's this book about?
So this book is one of those middle-aged women goes on a journey books.
Okay.
So
in the vein of Wild?
In the vein of Wild, in the vein of
Eat, Pray, Love,
right? And it's published in 2012, so it's probably the same era as well. Basically, she's a college professor in her mid-40s. She's single and she loves Jane Austen. Like, that's one of her favourite classes to teach. So she decides that she's going to go travelling through South America for a year and have a book club in each country that she visits that talks about a Jane Austen novel.
Okay. Is this a true story?
It is a true story.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, the narrative voice is really, like, no offence to Amy Elizabeth Smith, but I don't think that we would be friends in real life.
To apologise for that?
I think that she's just really boring. And she says it throughout the book. She's like, I'm more of an Eleanor than a Marianne, and I know you don't like Jane Austen, so I'm just going to explain to you
It's not that I don't like them, I just don't know them.
So Eleanor and Marianne are sisters in Sense and Sensibility, and Eleanor's like the sensible one, and Marianne's
So
like
in the movie,
emotional
was
one.
that Kate Winslet?
So Eleanor in the movie was the other one. You know, the...
No, I never actually watched it.
Oh, right, okay. So
I just know that it was in it.
Kate Winslet was Marianne. So she says things like, I'm more of an Eleanor, but sometimes when she's talking about herself, it's really self-conscious. It's almost like she's constantly aware that her students could read it or something. So she'll say things like, oh, I won't, you know, give too many details about that. And you're like, what, you're just getting to the good bit.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you know, and then why tell me that you're not going to give too many details about it? Just don't.
Yeah, that's
you know,
annoying.
just like,
yeah.
And right at the first, what annoyed me the most was the first chapter. Like, she says something about this bloke Diego in Mexico, and says how by the end of the book, you know, she has a fiance, but will it be Diego or not? Only time will tell. And I'm like, oh, well, for fuck's sake, now I know it's not Diego. Like, why am I going to read the rest of this book?
Yeah,
you know?
okay, so I'm not going to read that. You haven't sold it.
So it's quite like, no.
Oh.
So when she's talking about herself, it's just like, wow, this is one basic bitch here. Like, you are quite possibly the most boring person in the world.
Okay.
But when she talks about Jane Austen and the responses people have to her novels, and when she talks about the countries that she's in, it's really interesting. Like, it's solid reading.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she's definitely more comfortable writing about academic stuff in a friendly way than she is writing about herself.
Okay.
So I would say that possibly this kind of memoir was not the best choice for her to write. But the stuff in there that's about, like, you know, understanding writing and, you know, when you read things and it becomes part of who you are. And that's when she writes about that, you get into it and you're really interested and you're like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah. But
then other bits you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Okay, I'm going to pass.
And, yeah. Unless you're, like, super into Jane Austen or super into travel.
Which we both know I am not.
And the stuff about the countries that she visits is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, she really... And she... What I think she could have done better as well is she gets reading suggestions in every country she goes to about the literature of those countries.
That's a good idea.
Which I think is a good idea. But then I think what could have been really cool is, like, a list at the end of the book.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Because I was kind of like, oh, I should really write that down. Oh, I can't be fucked. Like, you know. I think also one of the things she writes that I really liked was talking about kind of because there's a lot of talk about Jane Austen being a feminist. And there's this line where she says that going off in a corner with a book is really, on a basic level, a selfish act, and that it's almost a feminist act to go off and just read a book when you know that there are other things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. So, yeah.
That's what you spent your Friday night doing.
There were redeeming qualities about this book.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to be quite keen.
Well, I spent my Friday night going to the movies.
Yeah. What did you see?
I saw Mother.
Holy shit.
Do you know anything about Mother?
Only that it's supposed to be some weird, dark psychological thriller that would probably set my anxiety off to the, like...
Yeah, don't see it. Yeah. It was so... I didn't even have the words to describe it other than to say it was terrible.
Really?
I knew that it was a metaphor for something.
But what?
But I couldn't figure it out.
It's like one of those really weird short stories that ends and you're just like, what the fuck?
It was long.
Yeah, right.
And so it wasn't set up to trick you that it was a metaphor. It was quite clearly a very peculiar movie. You knew that it was weird.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't...
Oh, yeah. Like all the advertising has all been like, this is a weird-ass movie.
Yes. Yeah. So I remember maybe 30 minutes towards the end, I kind of leaned over to my friend and said, do you know what this movie's about? She's like, no, I don't. I'm like, okay. Do you think it's going to end soon? Anyway, so then it ended... And thank God for that. And I had to shake it off. It was so awful. It got really quite traumatic towards the end. Anyway, so got home and my friend had gone home and Googled what it was about. And I really wish I had have had this information before I went and seen it.
You feel like it needs like a primer.
Yes, because spoiler alert, I'm about to say what the movie was about. It was a metaphor for Mother Earth.
Yeah, right, okay.
So Jennifer Lawrence, who is the protagonist and she's the woman, she represents Mother Earth. And suddenly when I realised this, I spent the next day reflecting back on the movie thinking how powerful it was. And how that, if I had known that...
So it was a good movie?
Well, still, maybe, if you hadn't known what it was about. So the guy... Javier Bardem, who plays her husband in the movie, he represents God, right?
This is too much for me already.
Yes, and then this couple, played by Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris, come and visit their house. They're redoing this house. You can tell it's incredibly significant that they redo this house because her husband, it burned down for him when he was a kid and he wanted to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And she was going to help him.
Yeah.
And then these two interlopers rock in and throw everything off course. They represented Adam and Eve. Then suddenly their two sons come to the house. Yeah. And I'm not even halfway through. The two sons come to the house and have this massive fight about money and wills. And one of them kills the other one.
Oh, my
right?
God. Is that like Cain and Abel?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep.
It's too much for me.
And then slowly everyone, you can tell that they're absolutely disrespecting the house and her rules and they won't listen to her. And her husband, who is God, is a writer and he keeps going to write something amazing, but he's had writer's block. And suddenly he writes this amazing poem and she reads it and cries and says, oh, my God, it's the best thing I've ever written. And then suddenly every fan he's ever had are at his doorstep because they want him and they want a piece of him because he's God. And then she gets pregnant. Anyway.
Joni, I need to cut you off.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Hey, I listened to you talk about Jane Austen. No, it's true, though. It was quite... In hindsight, I felt really guilty thinking about how we do rape and pillage the earth. And at the end, she says, that nothing I've given you has ever been enough. And at the end, the husband, God, rips out her womb.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best.
So it's 2 misses. Any hit? 2 books. A book we haven't recommended and
yes,
a movie
absolutely.
that we haven't recommended.
2 more things that I've been listening to a lot and reading a lot. I read Amy Schumer's book, Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo.
Oh, yeah. I want to read that.
It's brilliant.
Is it on your Kindle or it's on...
Yes, Kindle.
Yeah.
I have known about her comedy for a while and I've watched her movies and I quite like her.
Yeah, she's funny. I mean, she's not woke. She's not like a...
Not what?
Like, she's not really... She's very white. Do you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have any recognition of people outside her own
yes.
sphere of...
And so here's what I loved about the book. She's very well aware of that.
Right.
And she talks very much about her own privilege and how she grew up with money. I really have a whole lot more respect for her since reading the book. Yes, so it's worth reading.
It'll definitely be on my TBR list.
Yeah, yeah. So that was really good. The other thing I've been listening to a lot of lately is Dan Savage and his Savage Love podcast. Have you heard of him?
No.
Oh my God, this is going to change your life.
Yeah.
So he was suggested to me by one of my friends who's a therapist, and he's not a therapist. He's not clinically trained. He's not a professional in the field. But he's
really
been around forever, like 30 years or something. He's a gay man who lives in America, very outspoken, very left-wing, very wise and very sensible.
Right.
So he has this podcast where people call in and ask any kind of sex or relationship type question that span... Yes. If anything, it leans very much to the queer and kink kind of communities.
Yeah, cool.
Most of the questions relate nothing to me, but I love listening to him talk. He's amazing.
You like listening to him talk? Or
his answers
to
the questions that people ring and ask. He's very insightful. He's amazing. So I've been listening to a lot of that. Dan Savage. Really yeah.
I'm going to look that one up.
Yes.
I've got some questions.
Yeah. Just amazing questions people ring in about their own sexual issues with partners, relationship issues that relate to them or someone they love or everything and anything.
How long's you said he's been around the block a lot, has he? A lot. He's had like a radio show somewhere, or is this a podcast of his radio show? Is this like a...
Straight up podcast, right. But I think he's written for magazines before. I think he does a lot of talking stuff. I don't know how he came to be prominent in that area. Well worth a listen.
Have you been to San Francisco?
Yes.
It's cool. I liked San Francisco. I had a good time.
Yeah, an okay time in San Fran, yeah.
Have we talked about this before?
Maybe.
I feel like we've talked about San Francisco before.
I was in the Tenderloin district.
Yeah, right.
I was amongst all the homeless and the rough sleepers and the chaos that is... America's welfare system.
I was shacked up with my travel guide.
Oh, yeah. We have had this conversation. Yeah.
I don't know where he lived.
Yeah. I was in an Airbnb where the chick's drug dealer did house visits.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, interesting.
Yeah. I'm like, don't worry, I won't put this on the review.
Just like, I don't care. Isn't that funny? Like, all the Airbnbs I've stayed at...
Yeah.
Have been, well, not all of them, not the ones in India, but quite a few of the Airbnbs that I've stayed at have been quite free and easy with it's been like a welcome, sit down with us, partake of a wide range of.
Yeah. Well, they're open people, aren't they, really? I've never had a bad Airbnb experience, I don't think. A couple of weird ones, but generally.
I had a bad couch surfing experience once.
Is this different than Airbnb?
Yeah, couch surfing is free, so people just say you can come and stay on my couch.
Oh, why would you do that?
This was back in 2010, this is money, like, you know. This was before Airbnb.
Yeah.
So this was the way that you could meet people,
Okay.
you know.
And possibly get raped and murdered.
Well,